All right. Well, it's still good morning, everyone. We're going to give it about 10 seconds here to make sure that we're live on all the platforms here. This is always the fun part. I always want to make sure. LinkedIn sometimes, Martin's like about 10 to 15 seconds behind. All right, there we go. Hey, Dave Wilson of Results Staffing. Today, I'll tell you what, I'm sorry, everybody, but this has got to be one of my best shows that I've been looking forward to. And I was telling Martin that I didn't even have to prepare but 5 minutes for this because you can see the smile. I love TextUs, and I want to turn it over to my special guest. And Martin, I cannot seriously, to me, this is, I'm going to enjoy this, but Martin Payne, the CEO of TextUs. How's everything going, Martin?
It's going great, Dave. And thank you again very much for being a longtime customer and for just inviting us and me to be on the show as the ambassador of TextUs. Really appreciate it.
No, I do. And, before I decided how to talk to you on the show here and what to bring up because I'm full of it. I'm ready. I'm full of energy. And I wanted you to know if you could just talk to us about what you offer on TextUs in firms that we talked about, the leads in the business for nonprofits, staffing, healthcare.
Yeah, so TextUs is a business texting platform, and it's really we differentiate ourselves in being an enterprise class texting platform. But I think before talking about TextUs, just a little bit about just texting in general for businesses. Regardless of who you use, I think texting for businesses is just, a natural evolution of engaging your prospects, your customers, even your employees in a conversation that's way more convenient. And honestly, it's just a lot more authentic. People would much rather have a conversation or hear from a brand or a business they're doing business with over a text versus an email.
Right.
It's just much more natural. It's more intimate, and frankly, it's just more convenient. We're one of the many solid texting platforms out there that you can use. We've got a few things that differentiate us, like the ability for multiple users to collaborate on one conversation. We can have a conversation with many recipients, and we integrate really well with third-party systems and applicant tracking systems. But really, at the end of the day, is a category. Business texting is a great category, and it's what we're all about here at TextUs.
No, and that's it. And now I'm going to go right into this because the reason I feel I'm successful today and starting a company is because of TextUs. And the reason is when it's high volume staffing, when I first started out with it, is like you said, the millennials, and it didn't really who it was. But when we first got TextUs, everybody was a little leery because you're like, wow, something else to learn. But if you use this platform so smart when it comes to texting, in that 500 texts at a time, we were allowed to do 500 at a time. And that's what we would do is I would personalize the text. And that's where I found to be successful. So if we had jobs, what we would do is we would make a menu, all right? And if you had 6 recruiters in there, and say you had 14 companies, we had like Crayola, XPO, and Geodis, all these different companies. Everybody had their own accounts, each recruiter. So as we would send this blast out, we would put it on their text. We would put the job, the title, the pay rate in red on an email, even red, and text the word Crayola to your number, text the word FedEx to the number, right? So then with all the recruiters in the room, everybody, 6 of us, you hear bling, bling, bling. Well, this person handles this account. They would take it. This person handles that account. So what was happening was you were able to develop the menu, just like at a restaurant, that's what I call it. And whatever they were interested in, because what happened, Martin, is it saves so much time. And everybody knew not to touch it because that was his account. This was this recruiter's account. So that was one of the great things. And I'm sure you see that in staffing a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the fact that you can set up a recruiter and text enable their own unique phone number with their own account is definitely a huge value add because, well, just like you said, I mean, when you're sending a text to that number, you're sending it to a specific recruiter, and there's no ambiguity, right, in terms of who's handling that. And the other cool thing too is if that recruiter wants help with that candidate, for example, they need an assist. You can actually invite someone else in from your firm into that conversation if you want, and or if you don't, and if they've served their purpose and now you want to take them off that conversation, you can do that as well. So you've got flexibility there. But I totally agree that that ability to go one-to-one, deal with a recruiter with that recruiter's phone number and engage in a conversation that way is really part of the power, a big part of the power of texting.
It was, because you can always go back to it. You always were able to utilize that to go back to the conversation. Even if that recruiter wasn't there, you still had that to go back, that connection. And what I've learned, Martin, with TextUs for ourselves was, even now, is to make it personable. Because when I would just be, hey, it's Dave, we always said from your company's name, you always start off with your, so it doesn't look like it's a spam, who you are. And then before you know it, it was just, your response rate was high.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just, when I get a text, hey, it's a general, and I would be like, delete, stop. And what I like about TextUs is, and I showed the recruiters, even the staff here, is, look, we sent 500 texts, and I know you can send more than 500, but we had 500 set. It gives you the percentage of how many was sent and received. That was the most important thing that I liked.
Yeah, you're smart to do it that way because it's texting's really, I mean, you can broadcast and send out a ton of messages like you said, but a lot of the power of texting is quality over quantity. Yeah. And if you can throw a bit of personalization in there, a few emojis, it just feels a lot more authentic. And, we see response rates, like our response rates over the years, and they have not diminished at all, even though business texting has become more popular. We see response rates for clients anywhere from 40 to 60%. Yeah.
Especially now that the communication, like, have you seen with COVID, and I think we're always going to be talking about that, but have you seen an increase with texting right now with that?
We definitely have seen an increase in the COVID period here. I mean, we've seen volumes since March jump about 20% on average, ballpark. But almost instantaneously, once we went into the pandemic period, we saw about a 20% jump in our monthly volume. And it's pretty evident that folks are using technologies like texting. I mean, like Slack as well. I think Slack was pretty popular before the pandemic, but even in a remote working environment, it's become even more popular. And I think business texting like TextUs is seeing similar growth because we can be used anywhere.
No, and that's why it leads me into the next thing. With everybody knows I love social media, so I would take the same platform. You just make yourself up a menu, have fun with it. After the texting, you don't want to over text people. That's what I learned. So you could tell by your response rate, all right, that was enough in high volume. Now I switched it over to social media. I would copy the same thing and paste it onto a social media ad. Text a word to this number. Now, when you put that out there and specifically target your areas, I'll tell you what, now you've reached not only in your database, I'm telling you, look at the smile again. It just would explode. Those numbers would just flying in, people with responses. And the girls, recruiters, I'd be like, it's coming. And Shayla would always sit there and say, what'd you do? I said, it's coming because the tsunami, here it comes. And it would just go crazy because people have never seen that. So, oh wow, I want to work at this company. Now, some companies don't want to say their name, and that's okay. I prefer to get the permission. Let me use your name, because it just shows where they want to work. So social media just took that to a next level. So you got to really, that was fun.
I love it, Dave. We might have to talk after the show about you writing some blogs for just general texting best practices, because you've put it to use in really innovative ways.
It's just insane, because then you gotta love it. You take constant contact, and then after you're all done with the social media, you can see it go. Then after that, I would make an email blast with the same thing to email. So you could go back 10 years on your database. Didn't matter. Who cares? 10 years. And some people change their emails. So then you'd send that out there. Next week, holy crow, it would just go stop. And I told you before, I almost got a divorce over this, because that phone app, well, in today's world, I try to tell people and educate, I want to say, is, listen, it's not just 8 to 5 staffing anymore. It's not. But when you have that TextUs app, I'm sorry, I was walking. Oh yeah, come to the office tomorrow. Oh yeah, come in. I couldn't put it down, but that showed results. And that was the way it just really excelled. So then with the email blast, that would go out. So not only that, is one more thing that I utilized, and I had a couple more questions for you, was on Facebook. See, a lot of people don't realize, Martin, that on Facebook, that we can pull off, and that's where my expertise is, and as I can pull off everybody's cell phone numbers, it doesn't matter. I can pull it off of any group. I can run a software that just downloads all the emails and cell phone numbers. So now you just opened up your whole door to another 70,000 number of cell phone numbers. All right. Put your message out there, the same thing. Then, same thing, you got all these new emails. All right. So if you work together with it, it was non-stop. And that's what and the customer service, I'll never stop talking, but the customer service with TextUs is about 100%, because I always would tell the recruiters, if you have a question, they would contact me. No, go right to your help. They would send you every single thing you need and follow up with you.
Yeah. No, it's important to us. I mean, we're a relationship company at the end of the day. We sell a relationship product. We think texting is the best way to build a relationship with your candidates over the long haul. And, that's our brand too. We're a relationship brand. Our sales folks to our support folks, account managers, everyone at the company is really interested in building the best solution possible for our customers. And you know what? Part of that solution is having the smartest folks that we can bring to bear for our clients, and whether they need help, setting up their accounts, whether they need help with best practices and things of that nature. That's what we try to provide. And so if you've got an issue on the back end, our support team, chances are you're going to get a live person like within minutes.
Yeah,
is our response time.
I wanted to ask you about needs, and it wasn't just staffing, because I talked to you about, like I said, the leases, nonprofit, healthcare. How can that be utilized also?
Yeah, great question, Dave. We do most of our work in staffing and recruiting, and as you well know, and the viewers here well know, that's a relationship that starts with getting somebody interested in a position. Answering some questions to make sure that position's a fit, and hopefully it is. After a few interviews, you find out that you're both a fit for one another. Then you onboard and you place that person, and hopefully you place them again, right? And so it's really this conversation and relationship that takes place over a journey that your firm is having with that candidate. And if you look at other industries where there's kind of a similar journey, where it's kind of a bigger decision, it's an important decision. There's this period where you're trying to learn more. If you're the consumer, you're just trying to learn more about either the relationship you're getting into or the transaction you're getting into. You get comfortable, you sign on the dotted line, and then after you decide to enter into that relationship, there's kind of this ongoing management that needs to occur.
Right.
If you think about it, take that approach and you think about property management, for example. You're a tenant, potential tenant. Signing a lease is a long-term relationship. You want to ask questions, you want to see the property. You sign on the dotted line, and then eventually you interact with the property manager over the course of your lease with that. That follows a similar arc as a candidate going and looking for a job. The same can be said for, say, higher education. Students looking to go to various different schools. They decide on a school, they go to orientation, they enroll in classes. It's a similar elongated journey that they're going through with higher education. So we see, admissions departments at schools working with students through texting. Another example is lending. Lending's kind of an elongated process as well. So that follows a similar trajectory, and we see lenders using texting as well. So anytime you see that kind of customer journey, we have businesses who actually want to engage with their customers using texting because they just find that texting is a better way than voice or email, oftentimes, or very complementary to voice and email. To build that relationship over the long term.
And that's awesome, because what I liked also when you said that is if somebody would send me something, you could save it as a document, so you don't lose that text. That's the best thing a lot of people don't realize is when you send that, at least you can save it for later on. That was one of the great functions that I enjoyed. Martin, I wanted to ask you, when it comes to smaller businesses, do you see smaller businesses getting involved with systems like this, with the TextUs?
Oh yeah. One of the great things about texting, just as a general technology, is it's everywhere. Everyone receives texts, and then on the flip side, if you're a business wanting to send a text out, texting is just another message, right? And so our user interface really looks very familiar. If you're a user of email, it's going to be natively familiar to you. If you're a user of Slack, it's going to be pretty familiar. If you use text on your phone, you can go conversation to conversation. And that's exactly the way our business platform uses. It's just got a few more features to help you schedule texts and use templates and schedule campaigns. And there's some analytics, but the core piece of functionality is really looking down conversation by conversation that you're having with people and being able to continue those conversations in a very, easy, natural way.
Right. Okay. James Flemington. Now, James is in the UK. I'm trying to help him find a job right now utilizing the video resume. And that's why I asked you before. And he asked, because this is what he does for a living, could this be used as a mass text for event attenders like at festivals? Because that's what James does.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, James. So we have customers today who will use our platform for very similar use cases where they've got people who are on a property or attending an event, and there's real-time information that needs to be sent to a large group of people, letting them know that something's ready or letting them know that some activity is about to start. That's a great use case for texting because of the real-time nature of it.
See, James, thanks. I did not even think about that for events, because how could you communicate that so fast? That would be like instant. Thanks, James. That's a great question. I'm still working on that. I'm going to get you that job. He's trying to get that video resume over in the UK. They're not quite used to it yet. They don't understand it yet, but we're going to get it. I want to tell you two things right now. And a lot of people say, Dave, why you share this stuff? And I'm one person, Martin. And, this is the biggest thing. Everybody hold on for this one. So we all know how expensive Indeed is. And I have Career Builder. And, listen, you have thousands for years of that you've been paying for in a database, just like, right? So what I've learned to do is I've Since October I started, I have 7,000 people that have applied for jobs for me. Okay? Not all of them have I reached out because they're not qualified. So what I did the other day was think of this. Now, I did it to promote my website, but I envision already doing this with TextUs. So I went ahead and wrote a personal message. Hey, listen, everybody, my name is Dave Wilson, Results Staffing. I need your help. We're open again. I want you to introduce my webpage. Please register. I need to find you and I need to find the clients. It was very personable. And I said, this is truthful. I put my address. Here's my number. Boom. Now, so you can only do 25 at a time. So you opened up your job boards. Now you're talking Indeed. Now you could go back as far in a staffing company for years because it's right there. So if I was in the high volume right now, and if everybody's listening, high volume, take that 25 at a time, put your message, hey, this is Results Staffing. We have these jobs. Again, reply, copy and paste. Sincere thing, text us at, boom. Now, with me doing that with the website and the video resume, I'm saying an average when Taylor did that 7,000, I'm going to say about 1,500 respondents just saying thank you. And a lot of them registered. It was free. Just think of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's a response rate really that only texting can provide. The one thing I would point out when you're sending high volume texts out, it becomes pretty important to use a texting provider that is really in tune and has really tuned their technology to be compliant with things like TCPA and CTIA best practices. And they do have best practices for how to, how many messages can and should go out at a certain time. It's really not your problem, Dave. It's the problem. It's our problem. So we've got to do things like rate limit and kind of meter the messages that go out at certain time intervals so that we keep you guys out of hot water. Yes. Number one. And number two, the other benefit is we maximize your deliverability. So when we play in a way that is, consistent with how, say, Verizon wants their text messages delivered, or AT&T, and we get to know those delivers well as the other messaging service providers out there like Twilio and Bandwidth, we know that ecosystem really well. We know how to rate limit the messages that go out from our platform. Really, it's in a way that is transparent to you where you don't know, but we do that to ensure that your messages have the absolute highest deliverability rates in the industry. And frankly, deliverability is step one to getting the message out, right? So it's really important when you're doing high volume that you're working with a texting platform that has that know-how built into the platform.
And that makes sense because I know that with TextUs, because we couldn't just put out those 2,000-3,000 with multiple. It would, like you said, it's spread out, royal out. And then one time I received an email from Constant Contact, email, because I didn't know, I learned. But when I sent it all out, they responded back and called because I said it wasn't allowed because that's kind of like a spam. That's right. So that must have been what they were doing there for myself, is protecting me.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where there. All right, I got one more great tip for you, and we'll end the show. And I can't thank you enough. As I told you, here we go, everybody, again. And I don't want to sound like I always say like I know it all with the TextUs Smart, but you see the smile because I can't thank you, your company enough, or I wouldn't be here today. It wouldn't be. And you have to learn with TextUs is when you really want to send those texts. So when you're on a Friday, think about this, and I try to educate people, is Friday's a slow day in staffing in some other companies. And we always have some great recruiters to get creative. And I had even found success on NFL. I love the NFL season coming up because of halftime shows, when the quarters end. I like you can schedule those texts to go right out those specific times. And that is when you really, if you look at social media, if you look at your insights, same thing with you with the deliverable, see where your insights are, because that's when you want to schedule. You don't want to schedule a text in at 10 o'clock, because you can put, you know what, that reminds me, on TextUs, you can't put, like, I don't put after 8 o'clock at night. That's what I like, because at 8 o'clock at night, nobody will receive a text. You set your time. So I hit that football season, any sports. Saturdays was a little slower. I might have hit Saturday mornings. Sunday nights, that's your best, because everybody doesn't want to go to work. And they sit there. But they were the learning things that you learn how to utilize it.
Yeah.
And to be successful. So, all right, I did my part, my talk of it. You can tell I'm excited about that. And I just love the platform. And I can't thank you enough for your time, Martin. I really appreciate it. And everybody really have to reach out to TextUs. Once you go to that webpage, I put it on here, believe me, it knows you're there, because I think that's everything pops up on you and asks you questions, and you really like it. I'm going to say that. So, Martin, if you had like 15 seconds, 20 seconds to say, what would you end this with?
I'd just say that, I'm fairly new to TextUs. I've been at the company for 4 months. I probably picked the worst time in recent history to change jobs. But I'll tell you what, it's been totally worth it, because it's a great company. It's a very people-oriented company, very team-oriented, and I just love playing on teams.
Yeah.
But the other thing too, the other reason why I joined is texting is it's just such a nice tool to add to your tool belt, because it's so much more conversational.
Yes.
And it's also very human centered, and so if you don't use texting right now, I'd encourage you to check it out. We'd love to talk to you at TextUs, but also if you are using texting, some of the ways that Dave, you've talked about how you use it. You talk about using a technology platform, but making it more human centered, like the fact that you tailor your messages. What messages work, and you tailor it towards certain times, where you're going to get a response, but you're thinking about your respondents and how to elicit kind of when they want to receive the text and what type of text they want to receive, right? And if you put that kind of thought into it, you're going to take an average response rate of 40+% and just skyrocket it.
It
is what we've seen when you take a little bit of try to tailor the message and the timing of your message to your audience. So it's just a great time, I think, to be adopting the tool, and really thankful that you made time for us, Dave, here at TextUs, and for me. So thank you very much.
No, thanks. And I'm going to end it on one more thing. I'm sorry, but also remember, everybody, when you're utilizing the TextUs, what I like about it is, let me go, I lost my train of thought when you were just saying there 1 second, it's going to come back. Oh, come on. This is what I love about live videos. I just said this. I'm sorry, with the TextUs, I saw a lot of people working remotely. I got it. The remote people that were, saying, how do we, with being everything virtual, how do we talk to each other? So one of the great things with TextUs that I liked was you can have so many multiple users. So how are you communicating in your office? So what I told people was, if I was working remotely and if I had 50 employees, I know you can use a certain amount of users, the amount, of people that are allowed to have it. I would make a separate number for TextUs. And if it's on your screen, you can communicate all day long with everybody within that group. It was so easy to think about that, because at that certain number, it doesn't have to be the same one. You could have 50, 80 people, and your manager puts everything out, because everybody was like, I don't want to use my cell phone working remote. Get that number, and let me tell you, that's what I envision, again, utilizing it for that, because you have everything there. You can't say that you weren't told. It's your manager right there saying, this is what I want done today. The message was there. And it's a private line. You don't have to worry about utilizing anyone's cell phone, because you're going to have to give them a cell phone reimbursement.
Right.
So you're going to save your money there. So that was the last thing. So
Good point, Dave.
It works. So, all right, everybody, I want to thank everybody, and we are going to end the show. And my favorite saying is we want to make sure we end here. So here we go.